So the hospital where I work is banking on the boomers getting older. And they're building a new wing. And in this economy, it's pretty tough, but you know, it's like we're all getting there. They say, you know, the boomers are an asset now, but soon they'll be a liability. But the CEO of our hospital said, you know, they're calling us the silver tsunami. Because there are going to be so many of us. And he said that the 7th floor they wanted to open up. You know, it's like what can we do up there? Because they're just building this entire new wing. And so somebody suggested plastic surgery. More of us are wanting to get facelifts and tucks and Botox and everything else, you know. And so then I raised my hand and I said, how about acupuncture? And he says, oh no, we can't compete with the docs. And you see, it's big business. We're big business. But
maybe we should protest.
Protest what?
Big business. Maybe we should just all get together and say we're fine the way we are.
Yeah, but you can't hold back the tidal wave of the graying of America.
What about a bedded hospice up there?
Yeah, right. Well, we have I don't know. They're expanding it. You know, right now we're just doing home health. But we don't have hospice within the hospital. And there are benefits to both. So, anyway, this afternoon session, I thought we could work on really looking at how do we comfort, how do we care for those who are dying. So I thought we'd have this board up so that we could put down our suggestions and really brainstorm here how we can help each other, because, you know, we're next.
Well, first, a basket.
A basket. Yeah. So would someone like to volunteer to be the scribe? Okay, great. Thank you. Well, I was thinking about your comment about the basket. That was you, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, what?
About Achala and
senior
moment.
Be a big one.
A big basket. But you know, I was thinking about that, and it's all about love, isn't it? And the attention that the two cats had here, and the TLC. So you know, it's evident. It's evident. And how much more so on the side of grooming a place for practitioners of the Dharma, that it be a really healthy, loving place, you know. Because as I was saying earlier, there are a lot of places that, they're trying really hard, but we become compromised with the 8 worldly concerns, with power, with dogma, with so many other things, Fame, money, yeah, right, yeah. So, how do you keep it as pure as possible to really uphold that bodhicitta, that bodhisattva view? Okay, so let's brainstorm here.
Comfort and care is the...
Comfort and care, okay. We'll start with how do we really care for the dying? Okay. Listening, okay.
Attention, touch, dignity.
Attention, touch, dignity, great.
Prayers.
Hold on.
Whoops. Dignity, prayers, okay.
To be in the present moment with them.
To be in the present moment with them, okay.
My sister filled this role in a number of times where she became the resource person, like what agency, what person to call about, what doctor to call, this, that, and the other, and kind of that front person, which I had no skill or, anyway, I didn't get involved in that end of things, but I think she had experience with 3 or 4 family members, where who to go to, what to do, and there is that kind of logistical thing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you have to do it really quick, Yeah. So resource person, resource information.
And where do you call for a hospital bed? And where do you call for the best toilets? Just all those kind of little things that people don't really want to.
Right.
But
Yeah.
they have a lot to do with one's comfort.
Yes, right.
Encouraging.
Encouraging.
I was thinking of encouraging maybe someone's going through the process and maybe they don't want to speak up about what they really need. So really encouraging them.
So finding out what the real needs are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes, depending on what state the person is, it's as simple as asking.
Asking.
What do you need? What do you want? What can I do for you? So it's related to listening, but it's sometimes being a little more probing.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear some more ideas about how to deal with, when the family member or whoever is in that stage of denial, they really don't want to hear like, well, what do you want for your memorial service? Or
I'm not dying.
how do you
Yeah.
want this, that, and the other thing, and they look at you like, what are you, I'm getting up next week, I'm fine. And so that's, it's really a heartbreaking kind of barrier to, you want to help with that process, but they're just saying no.
Mm-hmm. Right. So maybe overcoming barriers. Someone had a question? I was
just going to say with that when I approached my mom with that whole topic of, how do you want to be cared for when you can't speak about how you want to be cared for, and that whole process of, death and dying, and she was like, I'm not talking about it. Then I went back and said it would be very helpful for my mind. So I kind of put it on me, and then she could do it.
mm-hmm.
So that was one way to kind of get around that.
Skillful means.
Skillful means. Good. Okay.
Non-attachment, on the side of the caregiver.
Mm. Okay.
Without attachment. And letting go of our agenda about who they should be and how they should die.
Okay, very good.
quite sure if there's a word for this, but I think it's important that we're okay with dying ourselves when we're trying to help somebody else. Otherwise,
That as the caregiver, that we get through our fears and concerns about death. Yeah. That we acknowledge that death happens. Mm-hmm.
Well, this is just, I don't know what to do about it, but sometimes family members are ashamed of the fact that their person has, there's Alzheimer's or something, or some other disease, and they shun the dying person, and that's a toughie. I don't know how to handle that one yet, but that happens, where they won't even have a memorial service for them or something.
So maybe instead of just work on our own relationships to death, we should probably put disease, maybe? And, I mean, it's not, it sounds like it's the caregiver who has still to deal with the issues. It's not the person who's
I
dying.
think he's saying not giving in
Caregiver is
to
sort of,
The
shame.
person who's giving the
they're
care.
ashamed and they pull away from the dying person.
The family.
the family.
family.
Yeah, caregiver and family.
Okay.
You had a comment?
Something someone said reminded me that for us to be as present as possible, and it's hard to do, but caring for ourselves in some way. Self-care of the caregiver.
Self-care, yeah, that's important.
However that looks to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh-huh,
And in
Tarpala.
that sense, I think it's important to have respite for the caregivers.
Respite for the caregiver, that's huge. Uh-huh.
I just wanted to underscore that. I was talking earlier with someone about how incredibly draining it is to be present with someone who's dying. Not depressing, but it can be very emotionally and physically draining.
Yes. So,
So the self-care is
self-care.
really important.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah. And I think kind of in your earlier share this morning, something about how can we support the caregivers? Because a lot of times they're the sole person handling all of the above. Mm-hmm.
This is going back to what you said this morning about how most people die in a nursing home, and then someone else just mentioned Alzheimer's and dementia. The dying person sort of needs an advocate with all the medical personnel. They need someone to be a voice for them and to look out, someone who really cares about them to be their voice and do what's in their best interest.
So the living wills and durable power of all the rights and the power before they get to that place, who will be able to make the decisions for them? So the living will, durable power of...
No, being a voice.
Patient
Being a voice.
A patient advocate.
Patient
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see your suggestion, Venerable Semke, that they have a living will in advance. If you don't think you're going to die, you don't have that, or you don't want to look at it. So there are, huge, there's a lot to work through with just individual stuff before you can get to it.
I don't know how to phrase this, but I know in my own process of my mother dying for the year that it took her, we had her die at home and I took care of her for that year, was during the last few days of, it is being the patient advocate, but also being the gatekeeper in a way, because you can kind of tell when they're starting to do the dying process. There's all of that drama that's outside the door, the family coming in, whereas the person has come to peace and you can kind of see the fluctuations with the person's dying process. And I had that question in my head. I was very young when I was doing it, but I was like, could you just stay out of the room, please, for a while? Because it seemed to upset the person going through the dying process as all that emotional energy came into the room. So I don't know.
Wow.
That can't be for everyone, but that was very helpful.
That's huge. Were you able to help keep the flow in check?
Yeah, and yes, I was able to keep the flow in check. And that's hard, because everyone has their feelings, but it goes with that agenda issue. Everyone has their feelings of, missing the person and the grief, but you can just kind of see that response that the person is trying to let go every time someone's emotional stuff would come in the room.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's another huge one.
Gatekeeper. Bardo keeper.
But then they're also, it's like the rest of the family saying, would you get out of the way?
Yeah.
Or that person is just a control freak and not letting us see our mother or our sister. And so a big part of it is family dynamics again. That one person who wrote the 4 things that we'll go over tomorrow, he said he always thought dysfunctional family was redundant.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to do, and as we go through this, we may want to add more and really look at how we work with it. But I think your sharing this morning was a real just touching to the challenge and the difficulty and the all that we have to deal with, at this period of dying. And so how can we work with it in the best way? What would you feel is the absolute essential thing to bring to this comfort and care? If there were one thing. Mm-hmm.
Your own groundedness, your own health before going in.
Mm.
Don't go in with my own agenda, my own problems, my own issues.
Okay, that's a really good one. Mm-hmm.
Kind of goes in tandem with that, but just having real genuine care for the person and love and compassion that really just solely wants to benefit them.
Yeah, right. Good. So I think that for some of the community here has been studying NVC, nonviolent communication, and I haven't really studied it except that there was one woman who I stayed with in Boulder a lot who got so involved in it. She started leading courses in Thailand, where she was from, in it. So I was hearing it on the periphery, but for myself, also in all the training that we had to go through to become hospital and hospice chaplains, to me, the thousands of hours or however many hours it was and what we had to train and go through, I would say the active listening. The active listening is key, because otherwise, whatever we're bringing in, whatever we're wanting to do, if we're not hearing what the needs are for the other person, we are bringing in our own agenda, you know. And sometimes we're so onto it, that we're so enamored with our own stuff that we can't hear them, that we, you know, would you please stop speaking so that I can tell you all this good information? But you're not hearing what they need at all. So, so anyway, we'll work with that. So thank you, Venerable Semke. I think we'll. So on Thursday again, you know, it's like I was preparing for this retreat, and on Thursday I went to see another client, and she's. So I'm all ready to active listen in my visits with her, and she says, because the tumor in her belly is getting bigger and bigger, and it's really pressing on her lungs and everything. She said, I can barely breathe. You're going to have to do the talking today. So again, you know, it's like listening and being present for what's there and what the people's needs are. That, I think, is the crux of it. And one of the other chaplains I was working with said, you know, there was one woman who absolutely felt, again, looking at view, looking at our confusion, looking at our minds, our own belief systems, you know, above and beyond our faith systems, our own dogma. Yeah, this woman felt that if she did not talk about her death and not say goodbye to her children, that that was the best thing to do. So she died leaving like her 6-year-old, her 8-year-old, without saying goodbye. No? And so even though my friend, the chaplain friend, talked to her, you know, it's like her belief system was so strong that you do not share any of this. And so, again, you know, we have to be really conscientious and think about what are we in it for? What are we working toward? Who are we just benefiting our own views? And how do we reflect back and observe, are my views appropriate and are they really beneficial for my children or my spouse or my parents? No. And then again, as a caregiver, really looking at how we can get to that. So much of my time, a huge amount of my time in training in chaplaincy was all about active listening. And we had to write these verbatims where we go and visit patients and then we write back what we think happened as well as we can. So you try, my supervisor would always say, give your worst ones. Because, you know, like even if you bring in a good one, I'm going to tear it apart. Especially if you think you did really well. So I think listening is the single most important thing that we can do. Yeah. Would you say that even as a nurse? Why would you say that as a nurse? Because you have totally different tasks.
Well, as a nurse, you get a lot of information from a lot of different departments, a lot of different people. But when you go into the bedside and there's the person there, you have to meet what is right then. And the only way to do that is if they can communicate, that you work with that. So it doesn't matter, you know, in with all this stuff in your head, but, you know, I mean, when you start your shift, you get report from what happened to, you know, so then you go in with this picture, this, conception of what it's gonna be. And, you know, it's always totally different than that. It's not even helpful. It really isn't.
And it's changing moment to moment.
Yeah, but we try to pin something down so we can grab hold of something, you know. But,
Right. Yeah. So, this comment here is for us to listen with all of our 5 senses, so that you are just receiving information with every sense, and to just tune in to your patient, to your loved one, whoever you're with. Because information's coming at you all the time, but if you've got an agenda, you don't get it. You know, your receptors are not there. You're not hearing, seeing, feeling, touching, smelling what's going on. And so this whole side of listening with all your senses, to me, is what is essential, indispensable.
Can you comment a little bit on, I do hospice work as well, and oftentimes the person isn't conscious. So there's a lot of silence.
Yeah.
So we go, you go, and even if, it's a family member, they may not be conscious. So there's a way of listening without, it's okay being silent. It's okay for the silence, I think. And that's always hard for people to be okay with silence.
Yes.
So listening doesn't necessarily, I don't think, mean that there has to be verbal talking going on.
Right. That's true. That's true. And sometimes silence is the right action. A lot of times it is. And there are a lot of patients who they're going through stages where they're sleeping more. I mean, some patients are sleeping 22 hours a day, and they're just awake a little bit and they're gone again. I had one patient who never moved, never opened her eyes. She never looked at me. She just laid in bed in the same position for months. But I would just go and talk to her, and it was almost like she was in another realm already. But she would always answer appropriately. She would always answer, and then sometimes they don't answer at all, and so then sometimes you use touch, to just know that you're there and present and being there for them. Sometimes people have dementia and a lot of memory loss, but for a lot of Americans, for Christians, a lot of them have early memory of the Lord's Prayer or something like that, and though they might not be able to speak much anymore or answer appropriately, they can say the Lord's Prayer with you, which is really amazing. So I say the Lord's Prayer a lot now. Yeah, it's a real connector for people because it bridges all the years. Sometimes they were separated from their faith for many, many decades, and to just be able to get there. Yeah. So let me go over a little bit of this, and then I thought we could do some role playing and try it out ourselves. Okay, so here it says, listen for literal information, but also listen figuratively. It kind of sounds like our, listen to the... yeah, right. Yeah, not just follow the teachings, Do you remember how it goes?
Yeah, don't pay attention just to the words, but pay attention
to the meaning. Don't pay attention to just the figure, the provisional meaning, but the definitive meaning, right? Right. And don't just pay attention to the teacher, but pay attention to the teachings. Okay, labels we give to others get in the way of listening to them. To call a person a dying person is emotionally charged. So again, watching our language and our conduct around them. You know, I had, again, how do people want to die? You know, how do people want to die? I had one case, it was the woman wanted to be in the living room with her family. So they went to Big Lots and bought these real cushy chairs and put them in the living room. She didn't want to be in her bed. So I was going to see them in the living room, and the last couple of visits, it was so challenging for me because it was not my style. You know, it was not my style. I was there when she was passing, but it's like she's on the couch in the living room. Her brother is on the next couch watching TV, channel surfing. Her husband's drunk out of his gourd. People are in the kitchen eating pizza and partying. The neighbors and the friends are over eating pizza and enjoying. And the nurse and the Eucharistic minister and I are around there, you know, just trying to make sure that she's okay. And her daughter, her 19-year-old daughter who just got married, is there refusing to let her go and just patting her arm saying, come on mom, it's okay, come on mom. And she's crying on the side, and her 19-year-old husband's, you know, rubbing her back saying, it's okay, you'll be okay, you know. And then but I walked into this, and you know, it's their choice. They made their decisions about how they wanted it. So so there, you know, I wanted, if I had my way, I would have been in there. Turn off the TV.
It's on the floor.
Oh, it's down there. Can you get it?
Turn off the microphone.
Turn off the microphone.
Good.
I think I lost a little. Oh, here it is. Turn off the TV. Go take a bath, you know. Stop drinking. Put that pizza away. And the smell of pizza is just wafting into the room, you know.
The hospice bouncer.
The hospice bouncer, right? The gatekeeper, right? The gatekeeper, right? Yeah. But you know, so I just kind of got it. I watched myself being in overwhelm, and I just thought, you know, this is what they want. They're cool. You know, the nurse was there. Their Eucharistic minister was there. And I just said, aloha.
I was talking with Susan Mitchell about helping my mother die, and that comment this morning, you said people will die the way they live. My mother was very, very social and very, very friendly, and she had the bed in the front room, and she had people. This was the part I hadn't counted on. It was like, I'll be there for her. I had this peaceful thing in my mind. But what I ended up doing was socializing with these people who would come through. And it was just a steady stream of neighbors, nieces, nephews, sisters, brothers, priests, you know, and it was like, oh my gosh. And it was exactly how she liked to live.
Mhm.
And that's how she died. And it was like, okay. But the surprise part about you have to let go, you know, of what, I had to let go of my picture of how I want my mom to die. I wanted to shut and lock the door and just let in, you know, this one really helpful niece and my sister and the neighbor.
Yeah.
And no one else, but that was not how the family and her were having it.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
then what I needed was someone to sit and have tea and cake with all these people. I don't know what that would probably be a gatekeeper function. But, you know, that wasn't the part I had counted on. But knowing my mom, I should have counted on it. If I would have thought she's going to die how she lived, which is surrounded by a lot of people and kind of a party. That's how she likes it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But also sometimes it's a flip, you know, it's, they may be very calm and quiet and then suddenly they're really angry, or they're very sociable and then they're not, or vice versa. It changes. Again, it's quite interesting that, you know, it's somewhat unpredictable. Yeah, yeah. So so we have to watch, watching out words that evoke defensiveness. You did or you didn't do this, and pointing at others. It was your father who did X, Y, and Z. You know, how you project things on people, or using these final words. Always do this, or you've never done that. And see, here's what they say for giving what they call non-evaluative feedback. So minimal encouragers, like an when you're talking with people, right? And so here you can say in surprise, skepticism. Can someone say with skepticism? Okay. Agreement? Sarcasm?
Usually comes out, yeah, right.
Yeah, right. How would you do it in surprise? See, and all of those are responses without saying a word. So we have to remember that acceptance is not an agreement, and to also monitor your airtime when you're working with others. Yeah? That you may have lots to say, but then you're not really hearing what the other is saying or giving them time to talk. So, so keeping your responses judgment-free requires a lot of personal self-discipline on your part. You know, how are you going to work it? Okay, so here's an example. The patient says, I wish I was at home in my own place. I don't know why I have to be here. So how would you respond in active listening?
Sounds like you really want to be home.
Sounds like you're
You
feeling.
really want to be home.
Sounds like you really want to be at home.
And you're
Or maybe
saying,
that you miss home. You know, maybe it sounds like you really miss being home.
That's a really calling for an NBC response.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
You know, like, gosh, sounds like you're feeling, maybe you're feeling lonely and you need something, some familiarity or something comforting, something like that. that acknowledges without even naming home.
Yeah. What might be another NVC response? Because I'm just thinking, you know, you're implying loneliness when the patient might not. Yeah.
I was thinking, do you feel puzzled because you need understanding of what's happening to you?
So you would say, do you feel puzzled?
Yeah. Because you need.
I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah, the person.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, because you need to understand what's happening to you.
What I always say, you know, I'm a hospice volunteer, and whenever that kind of, when there's an awkward conversation where I really don't know what to say, or, you know, that person would say something like that, or something like, you know, nothing works anymore, and I wish I would just die, I would just say, you know, I can understand why you feel that way. I feel that way too. And I don't know if that's a good response or not, but it's worked pretty well. It seemed to be like, the person wants to hear that somebody else understands how they feel, no matter what the problem is.
It's like empathy with understanding, and a feeling of connection would happen.
You know, yeah, I can understand why you're not happy that you're at home. I don't know whether that's the right or wrong response, but
Yeah.
one of the only tricks I have in my bag.
Well, when you say, excuse me, when you say, I just, what was it? I just want to die. I don't want to be here.
Yeah, nothing works anymore, and so I can't do anything. And good for nothing, and I just don't feel like I'm any good anymore, and I sometimes wish I just wouldn't wake up tomorrow. You know, and
Right.
you know, maybe that's a bad response. I don't know, but
Well, one of the comments was to say, I understand. We don't understand.
well,
We don't really
I
understand.
understand because I think I feel the same way. If you know what I mean.
But
I
yeah,
feel that way too.
what they're saying in here is that, you know, maybe how do we, because we actually don't know what's behind that.
But I think
So to
I
say,
feel the same way. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to convey to them, no, I don't understand. I'm not in your shoes. But if I were, I think I would feel the same way that you do. So I can understand feeling that way.
I think, you know, really underneath the words, there's the intention to support and to hear and to be with people. So ultimately, I think it's fine. What they're saying is maybe answer like, can you tell me more? Because when you say, I understand, that means, oh, you've got it already, so I don't have to tell you anymore.
It closes conversation that could be
Yeah.
important to have.
Yeah.
Not intentionally, but.
Right. So, yeah. So how do you keep it open-ended? I know what you mean. Well, yeah. You know, it's like one of the chaplains who's so good-natured at the hospital where I trained said when her mom died, someone said, she's your mother's fine, she's in a better place. It was her time to go. And she said, you know, she's just this bitty woman, and she said, I wanted to get up and sock her. Because we keep interpreting, you know. So, but I do like you a lot. And this is where my supervisors were trying to catch us, where we kind of close up the statements. I had answered when the patient said, I wish I was at my home in my own place. I don't know why I have to be here. I said, yeah, I understand. Exactly what you said. I said, I'd like to be in my own place too. And my supervisor was saying, rather, tell me more. Tell me more about that. Okay, here's another one. A patient says to her mother, a little girl, I'm scared, Mommy. And you're in there.
What are you scared?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Tell me more about
Is the little girl the patient or the mother the patient?
The little girl.
The little girl is dying.
She wasn't dying, but she was a patient in the hospital where I was training. Yeah, yeah. Who said the first answer? What are you scared of? Yeah, very good. It's addressing her fear, isn't it? It's really giving her a chance to talk about it. And maybe she just wanted to be comforted. Because it wasn't a life-threatening situation, but how scary is it for a little girl to be in the hospital and you're not in your own bedroom in your own home with your family? Yeah. I had said, when she said, I'm scared, Mommy, I said, just think it will soon be all over, and then you'll have a cast on your leg. I think, I look at that now and going, oh, that would make me more scared. Yeah. So yeah, my supervisor said, better to ask her about her fear, right? Okay, so after I offered a read from a new book on prayers, the patient says, okay, but don't read anything about endings because I'm not dying. And she smiles. So how would you respond to that? Okay, but don't read anything about endings because I'm not dying.
Good. Okay.
Do you have any suggestions?
And they
Why do
really
you
are
think
dying.
that?
They're in hospice,
Yes.
so they're dying.
Why do they think they're there anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, you're...
Okay, she's got her oxygen tank on. You're going, why do you think you're here anyway? Get over it, right?
way to ask that question, then you see, but still, maybe get her to think about it a little bit.
This is such a hard one, I think, because if you have a relationship with a person, you know kind of which way to approach something like that. It might be the exact time to gently open that up a little bit and have the person, look at their situation. It might be, it was a terrible day and they just, they have had too much, and so then you use a little humor. So it's really hard, I think, unless you're in relationship with a person, to know which is going to work the best.
I'd been visiting her for over 2 years.
When did she ask that question? What, the reading happened at the beginning of the 2 years?
Towards the end. Towards the end. And I was working with the social worker on this one too, because she was a woman in denial. And just not, she liked her Jim Morrison poster up there and her t-shirts, and she wanted to go shopping every other week to buy new clothes. 2 years before she passed, she had a facelift.
Sometimes if I'm at a loss in a situation like that, what I say is I parrot things back. Nothing about endings. And it's kind of like, it's a version of saying more. But I want to keep it as specific as possible because it's her word and it's a window. Or a door she's asking me to walk through, I believe. And that often is very fruitful.
Very good, very good. I had said, what's going on with your condition? And I got done on that one too. I'm not the nurse, I'm not the doc, and you know, it's kind of like the heat's getting cranked up, and I diffused it, I backed off, right? And you have to have the courage to stay with the heat sometimes. She's telling you a lot right there. She's really saying a lot. But I just went, how's your condition? You know, and I can't answer any of that because I'm not in the medical field. So, you know, again, looking at you as caregiver, what your tasks are, that's why I wanted to ask Venerable Jigme, because, you know, her task is to make sure that the meds are in balance, that the body's functioning as well as it can, and you know, all of these sides. So there is that doing side of nursing, whereas in the side of being an active listener, you know, you're not doing, you are really there listening to how this is doing, how the heart is doing, and to see, you know, how do you respond appropriately to be able to open the doors, because that was really an opportunity to talk more deeply, exactly as you said. You know, it might have opened the door to her being able to approach a little bit more the fact that she didn't want to look at death when she could, you know, she was pretty much stuck in a wheelchair and couldn't go out anymore. So, you know, when you're 16 years, this handicapped, as far as not being able to work anymore because you have emphysema and stuff, you know, that you're getting messages loud and clear, and to not be, you know, it makes me feel like I lost the moment, you know.
So I mean, you're saying that there was a lot of messages in there, and I can sense them, but so you've got someone who isn't accepting their realities. So do you? I mean, I'm not quite sure exactly.
Well, she wasn't really accepting her reality. She was saying, okay, but don't read anything about endings because I'm not dying.
Yeah, I'm still, what you said when the heat was getting cranked up, I'm afraid I'm missing what it is that she was saying, besides the fact that maybe there's a lot of fear in there, in the denial. But I don't know exactly what the heat is that you're talking about in those two statements.
Yeah, it's more that here was a chance, an opportunity where she's bringing up her denial.
Right.
She's bringing it up. And like you said, what was your response on that one?
Parrot back.
Parrot back.
No endings today or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're not going to talk about endings. I would just give it right back to her because she.
So we're not going to talk about endings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No endings. Sometimes you just kind of end with no endings.
yeah.
And let them fill in the blanks, you know. My supervisor said, can you say more to that? To allow her, like an opening the door to the discussion. But my saying, what's your condition? you know, I lost it. It was very elusive. Yeah.
Could you ask her what she wanted to hear read, and then maybe that would provide some kind of a basis for further discussion? I mean, she's agreeing to have you read something from a prayer book, I heard? Book of prayers, or?
Book of poems.
Oh,
Yeah, poems.
So, could you ask her what she wanted to hear, if there was something in particular, and that might have given you a door, you know, side door.
Well, we did try to get into Jim Morrison poems, but he's complicated. He was from the Doors. Yeah. That was her hero.
But he died. I mean, maybe that
He suicided pretty much. Yeah, he overdosed.
an opening to talk with her about his death.
Yeah. It was amazing because I did go to her memorial service, and there were all these policemen that came to her service, and I just thought, wow, what's that about, you know? And she had pretty much started the volunteers to help the police department in the little town, and so they were there. But you know, she was one of those persons who was very wild, very, very wild. You know, like people who wanted to disappear their cars to collect insurance on it. That kind of wildness.
So did she ever accept?
No.
She died not knowing what she was doing.
I think people know.
Yeah.
And, you know, she was older than me. I think people know, but they just hold it in a particular way. Okay, so shall we try one? Or okay. Yeah, sure.
Because that kind of reminds me of sometimes for a period of time before my parents moved into this kind of into life place, which they, every time they talk about it, this is where we're going to die. So it took them a while to get there, right? Because it's hard to make that move. So a lot of people don't, because what it represents to them is their death. But before they moved there, they would talk about death when I talked to them on the phone. And what I was thinking when you were talking about this is like, it's hard to find the skillful words, but I think there's also the kind of the undercurrent of what I sensed in that thing was she had fear possibly, but what's on the side of my side is my fear of, not only could I not find the words, but I didn't know how to even start the subject, but I also think there's fear on my side that even makes that, goes deeper, that makes it so I can't even get to that point. So I was wondering if you found that in your own experience, like in a situation like this, or I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to keep working with our own fears and see how we can address that and cross our own barriers, right? Work on ourselves a lot.
Especially when you don't have a common worldview. That's the part that is my kind of the sticking point for me, is like, I don't know why that has to be, it doesn't have to be a sticking point at all.
Yeah.
But like if I was talking with some people who are Buddhists, we'd have kind of a common language and a way of approach. But you know, like I just went to the cemetery in Walla Walla and I was so shocked. Like on the gravestones, I was reading them and one says, "Gone fishing." World view, you know? And another one says, now I'm beyond sorrow. You know, and so you just see written in these things, you're like, I was like, wow, what are you thinking when you have on your gravestone? Like,
I don't know, I'd say he had a sense of humor.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like how do we hold this with lightness too? Yeah. it's really hard. When I work with people who are willing to talk about death and they're in hospice, it's wonderful, wonderful. But when they're not, it's the challenge where you see, how do you not offend others and really support them in their needs, yet really listen actively so that you can help them with openings as well. And that's the hard part. It's really, really hard. And there's one woman I went to see in Palos Verdes Estates, this amazing home. The grandkids open the door, gorgeous grandkids. The husband shows me in, and he shows me these fantastic paintings. He says his wife has a studio in the back, and she had gallery shows. I get ushered into the bedroom. The bedroom's so huge, there's a living room in the bedroom, so people can hang out and chat. And I'm slightly distracted because I'm watching the Pacific Ocean roll in, and it's just really, really beautiful. And I just said, how are you dealing with all this? And she said, I'm on to my next adventure. And to me, it was like, here's a woman who really took advantage of her precious human rebirth. I mean, of course there was privilege, but she also went for her creative art too. It's like she worked on her talent, and her family loved it, and then the community started loving it. So, she was satisfied, she was fulfilled, she understood. She said, I'm on to my next adventure. So, it's like sometimes it's just easy, it's very fluid, it just goes. But this active listening, or this NVC, it's that part where you realize you have a real precious opportunity when you're talking and engaging and exchanging with others to get to these places where the heart can open. That you really afford understanding and opening. So that's the challenge. So maybe someone want to work with me on an exchange? Someone want to volunteer? Okay, great. Do you want to do it from there? Okay, all right. So let's see how. I'll be the patient. Let's see. So you'll be the caregiver. I don't know how to tell my family.
Well, if you did know, what would you say to them?
Well, I think that they wouldn't be able to accept that I'm ready to go.
But maybe they would be able to. What if they would?
they keep telling me to get better. Maybe if we maybe I could tell my child.
Maybe you can't do that.
Yeah, very good. You're parroting and responding. Yeah. Someone else want to try it? 2 people want to try it? Okay.
I'll try it.
Okay, you're going to be speaking with Venerable Jigme.
Okay.
Okay, who's going to be the patient?
I'll be the patient. Is that okay with you, John?
Sure. Yeah. That way I can mess up and make everybody laugh.
I don't like it that I can't go out and do the things I like to do anymore.
Why? I can understand that. I'm really glad that I'm able You're in a tougher place than I am right now, and because you're in that place, we that's why I'm here visiting, because I want to see whether I can get you to lighten up and
Beep.
I'd
Okay.
like to know a good response to that, because I hear that from my mother, and I make all kinds of suggestions of what we could do, so she could do, but she really doesn't want to, it comes across as she really doesn't want to do it. You know, I say, well, you know, I can wheel you out to the lawnmower, because she can run the lawnmower. Well, you know, it's what she likes to do.
Oh, okay.
I mean, she really likes to do that. But a lot of times it's just, I think it's more of feeling sorry than making a request of, I wish I could do something else, and I don't know what I don't know what I'm responding to when that comes up. Because like I said, it almost sounds to me like she's kind of feeling sorry for herself. But I don't know what to say, because if I address that part of it, she would deny it. But anytime I make a suggestion, or, you know, anytime you want to go do something, you know, I'll help you, or we'll make it happen, or we'll find a way, and it's like, well, she didn't really want to do it anyway. And I don't really know what I'm addressing, because there's a lot of cover-up in that statement. I mean, when I look at my mother, who says that a lot.
It's true, yeah, there are many, many layers there. A lot of layers. And it could be, you know, that it's her way of expressing that she's starting to close down, to settle things, and it could be, you know.
And then I try to open, you know, sometimes I'll say, well, you know, she said, well, what are you going to that retreat this weekend? I mean, what is there to talk about dying? And I said, well, Mom, a lot of people are really afraid. Well, I'm not afraid to die. I don't know what the problem is. You know, so I can't, it's really, I don't know where to go. You know, obviously she has a need of some kind, but it's covered with, you know, that same statement. Plus, I don't know what the problem is. You know, I'm not afraid to die. And I can't get a wedge in at all. So that's a very good, you know, what do you say to that statement?
I think you have a burning share.
No, that statement, I deal with that a lot in the context of athletics with a lot of my peers, because I play hockey. And I'm a lawyer too, and there are a lot of lawyers that have a lot of different skill sets where that complaint gets lodged a lot, and it gets lodged in a real way. I broke my leg. Oh, I'm having a back surgery. My wrist is broken, or this hurts, or that hurts. And I've always myself reconciled myself to the fact that when I've had an injury, I'm like, well, okay, now I can just do more Dharma. Or now I can focus on this other aspect of my life because I'm not going to be able to do this one aspect anymore. And I think that it's a great example would be just what that lady told you. Okay, you can't do that anymore. You're going to have to go on to your next adventure. You know, and give people kind of a positive type of, well, if you can't do X, Y, and Z, you're still here. You can do this, or this. And I found that works reasonably well, actually, with people.
You need to come and talk to my mom. See how well it works.
Well,
I mean, it's a good idea, but I mean, we're talking about somebody that's really locked in.
Yeah,
I mean, if she can't ride a motorcycle, if she can't, you know, do all the things she used to do, then her life is meaningless. Because that's who she thinks she is what she has done.
And she's not doing it, right? She's not going out to do it.
She's in a wheelchair and walker now, and this is a person that, you know, was flying on a business level in the 50s. You know, this is a person that, you know, was involved in politics. This is a person that picked up motorcycle riding at 40, you know, and it just really, and then the next thing that she really likes to do is to run things and tell people what to do. And I'm the only one around.
That's the problem, not her mom.
So
I have no idea how to get them.
Her new adventure is devising better ways to get you to do stuff.
Oh, that's always been her adventure.
Yeah. But there's that part where she's going through her own changes, and sometimes it's us that keep trying to fix it, or to make new plans, or to get them out and come on, let's go. We'll go to the park, or we'll go just, you know, take you in the little cart, and we'll go through the shopping center or something like that, when they're not up for it anymore. You know, when we're thinking it's a good idea to get some fresh air, change of pace, new scenery, this and that, when they're kind of had enough already. But it's important to try to see what will work. I mean, in hospice, we were bending over backwards to try to get this guy who wanted to go down and watch the surf one day, because he was an old surfer on hospice, you know, and that never happened. But we really try to fulfill their wishes when it comes up. and
Well, I
to do
don't
stuff.
push her, you know, it's just that she'll say, like, she wanted to come out to the Abbey, and I knew in the back of my mind that she wouldn't do it. But I said, okay, we'll go, you know, and then, you know, sure enough, the day before, I don't think I want to go. So it's not that I'm pushing her, I'm just trying to give her, you know, whether she does or doesn't, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I see your point, because I do want to do something that would make her happy. But, yeah, so it's just kind of let her do her own inner stuff, is what you're saying?
Well, you know, maybe coming to the Abbey is a big leap for her, but maybe doing something else might work.
See,
You know,
this
it
was
seems.
her own idea.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, but she didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I would respond to what Venerable Jigme said. There's something like, you sound really frustrated because you'd like to go and do something fun.
Now I'm being heard. That sounds like I'm being
Uh,
heard. It comes to
yeah.
what's feeling inside.
Right. Go ahead.
So what was that, Venerable, you said?
You sound really frustrated because you'd like to do something that's fun. You know, just talking about what she's feeling. Instead of telling her that she shouldn't feel that, instead of telling her what I feel, instead of trying to problem solve. Yeah.
Just acknowledging I have a loss. I can't do what I used to do. Just acknowledging that. And then
Yeah.
it becomes real for me.
Right.
If it's acknowledged. If I say it and then somebody assents to it, then I feel like my reality is here now.
That somebody's heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you feel heard. And that's key. That's key. And it really takes a skill to keep working with that. To, again, to listen with our five senses, that we can really tune into what's going on.
May I ask a question about that? If Venerable like missed and that wasn't what you were feeling, would that also open the door for you to say, oh, well, it's not really that I want to do something fun, it's that da-da-da-da? I mean, that's what I wondered about that comment, because you're kind of guessing, right? I mean, you don't know for sure what she's feeling. You're intuiting that you think this is it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, she could also have used a shorter statement of, you sound frustrated.
Yeah.
Or you sound
It
frustrated.
just seems to me that if you try that, that's a good thing, because it does open the door for them to counter if you miss.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering about.
Yeah, it does. And hopefully the person that you're talking with will respond and tell you, you know, because sometimes there's so many different things that are going on. Uh-huh.
You can go next. As I was feeling from what you were saying with your mom, is that she's kind of begging you to open a door that's in her heart, and you're trying to show her other kinds of doors. And if you can ask her, like, why do you have such a lack of motivation? Is it from your physical circumstances, or maybe your emotional? You know, and like having more of like a questioning, so she can just start narrating what she's feeling internally, and that can open the door more.
How would you respond with NVC with that, where the mom is saying, I'll go, she's the one who's offering, and then the day before she says, I don't think I'll go.
Well, actually, in this whole discussion, what I wanted to say is, Sarah, it sounds really frustrating for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing I'm hearing, is how frustrating it is for you, because you love your mom and you want to do something useful, and you feel you're not sure what to do.
Yeah. Because I hear underneath something that she can't open up to, and I don't know how. I don't know how to get there. This is a person that has never opened up about anything in her entire life. You know, she's had a tough persona, and she has the attitude of I have to do it myself because nobody else can do it the way I want.
So you feel really blocked.
Yeah, it's like I'm almost begging. What do you know? I'll do anything, you know, to help. But I just, you know, there's that. She just has such a shell, a tough exterior that I just can't. I mean, she's so well armored, you know.
There's something about her shell pushes your buttons. It makes
Well,
you
yeah,
sad.
because when she's shutting things in, she's shutting me out.
And that's hurtful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hurtful.
So that's, I'm bringing my agenda.
Yeah, you want to be part of her life, especially if she's getting old and approaching death.
Yeah. So then I've got my agenda there. So what do I do with my agenda? Yeah, I'm just gonna have to, I don't know.
But do you have an answer for when people are just so forcefully, outwardly not allowing anybody in? I mean, you just sometimes have to just say that's the way it is and then leave it be.
They're challenges, and I try. You know, I've worked. Sometimes I'm really amazed that people allow me into their homes, and I take that as a huge step. That, you know, they want me there. So then I try to work with what's there. And one woman I went to would start screaming every time I opened my mouth. Because she, I don't know, maybe she thought I was the Grim Reaper or something. But we finally started talking, you know, and she was the one who said, she was, I mean, a very well-educated woman, a woman who really took care of her life. She was an avid skier, just really accomplished. And she was the one who said, no, there's nothing after this life. She's a total radical materialist. And she said, we just become dirt. That's it. And so I could see her, feel her, really struggling with the fact that this is the end for her. There's no more. There's nothing else after this. And she could be very cantankerous and hard to deal with. But you know, as long as she allowed me in, I would show up. I would show up and just be with her and just keep trying, working with this way, working it that way. Trying to use my skill, talking to my supervisors, how to work with it. So sometimes people won't open up, but their actions are speaking volumes. And so to, again, you know, just use all the tools that you can in trying to find what's the key there. And, you know, this side of active listening and not rote parroting, but rephrasing perhaps, or sometimes silence. Also, they'll say something outrageous, or, you know, if your mom says, I'm doing this, I'm not doing this, I'm doing this, I'm not doing this, and she says, I'm doing this, and there's silence, it's almost like she has a chance to hear, oh, there I am, saying I'm going to do this again. No, so using different tools, silence, rephrasing, agreeing, disagreeing, you know.
this way, but where do you want to go? Bring them to peace, bring them, talk about frustration, like...
I'm just there for them. And if I go in with an agenda, then I'm carrying stuff that I want to fix. So I go in every time, just what are their needs? What do they want? What's on their mind today? It's a really wonderful job because you get to be with people, you learn from them, and sometimes you can really bring a lot of peace to their heart because you're just kind of responding to them, and you're not saying, if you don't do 50,000 Hail Marys or prostrations or whatever,
I have to say, from my mom's experience, having the hospice worker is a safe person, because I found that my mother would say things to the hospice worker. She was a very skilled hospice worker that she couldn't say to us. And so it's just really nice what a great service, because you really are helping. You're just there, whatever they have. Sometimes they don't respond, but having someone else you don't have all of that emotional baggage with, and you can just say what you need.
Not having the history too. Sometimes it's just fresh. So, those things are really, really helpful. Other things of engaging are having them engage in life review. Regaling you with her stories.
Yes.
Right, yeah. To pull out an old photo, to remember the time when, or tell me what it was like when, you can really open the box. And maybe that's her joy. If that's something that she really goes to you with, opens her heart with, then that's an avenue, of she's downloading the family history.
Yeah, but like I said, she does that. She can do that all day long, 7 days a week to anybody. It's like it's a rote memory. It's like she has it all in a certain way. It's told a certain way. Sometimes the storyline changes a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And you can be skillful in looking and asking questions that tweak it in a different direction.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been thinking about if it would work, because, if she does a thing like I can't do that anymore, certainly empathize in that, and then what if we go to, and what did you love about riding a motorcycle anyway? Not that, tell me, what did you love about that? What was it? How was it for you?
Because
And that gives you a different take on the same old story.
I have to really look at my own stuff, because so much of this that she's saying has been a turn-off to me all my life. Because it's something that she's done to be the center of attention, and I've been pushed aside.
Whoa.
So then I put up I've heard that's a really helpful thing that you said, and then somebody else said, you said about sometimes having another person. It's not about me anymore. If she can talk to somebody else, that might be the answer.
Yeah. Invite
what Shuni said is good too. Because I just sometimes, I just say, to myself,
right.
Because it's the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I
but,
need to listen differently.
Yeah. Here, very quickly, because we're starting to run over time, some of the barriers is, one is knowing the answer, right? You already know what she's going to say. So, trying to be helpful, treating the discussion as a competition, trying to influence or impress, reacting to red flag words, or things that are pushing your buttons because, of your culture, of your history, of your personal experience. Believing in language, it says, it's like, I said it perfectly clearly, so why don't you understand? Or mixing up things like, they're saying one thing and then you can't see it because of the forest. Or else they're telling you a bunch of things, but you're just pinpointing one tree. And then just compounding things, adding on to the story. So all of these things can really block us in being able to be present for the other person. So, yeah. And then just finally, I had one volunteer. I wanted to read. Do you mind if we go over just a few minutes?
No.
Is this the one? Okay, I'd gone to see this patient. Maybe two people can read this about Venerable Chin. And what, Mary Grace?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, we're going to read. And we need a third person. So would you like to read? Okay. Let me see where we want to start. Okay, this is just a verbatim, but here, let's start from here. So somebody be A, somebody be M, and T will be you. Okay. All right? Okay.
Well, I lived here when I was a teenager and then moved away for a while. I was married and lived up north. No, I was married and lived up north, raised my kids. Now I'm back here.
Well, that's nice. I like the garden outside.
And it's me again. That's my mother's work. She likes to garden. I don't go outside much.
I see. What do you like to do?
Well, I can't do much now. My mother helps me, and then my daughter comes down for a weekend with her child. And sometimes I go with them to Sacramento.
Oh, that's cute. How old is your grandchild? Your grandchild, right?
Yeah. Oh, she's 7, going on 20. She hangs out with her older stepsister a lot. My daughter's husband had a child by an earlier marriage.
Yeah. Oh, so she's in a mixed household. When I remarried, we had a mixed household too. There were his kids and my kids, but we all managed to get along. They're all grown now, so it's just my husband and me now. Women live longer, so it's good for a woman to marry a younger man. My husband is not much younger than me.
Oh, great. Well, my husband was 7 years younger than me.
When we get old, we want someone with us. It's really so much better for a woman to marry a younger man. We don't want to be alone when we're old. Plus, they have more energy to do things with you. Lots of women look for younger men.
It's you. T10.
Oh, I just heard the term for that. They call them cougars, right?
Oh, did you just hear that? When were you married?
Oh, well, he was my first husband. What is going on here? I don't even know. Oh, well, he was my first husband, so it was over 30 years ago.
Oh, so then you were a cougar before there was the term for it.
Yeah, I'm so uncomfortable because I don't know how Anne would receive that comment. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my husband is still energetic to do stuff with me. We just went to see a play. Can't remember the name of it. Did you see it?
No.
My husband and I also went to see another play not too long ago. There are so many around. We go to plays all the time. Do you like plays?
No.
Well, you know, there are plays locally too, and you don't have to pay a fortune to see them either. Some are really good productions, and some are done even by local schools. They're quite good.
She already said she doesn't like plays, right?
Oh, has your granddaughter?
There you are. Oh, has your granddaughter ever been in plays?
Yes. She's been in a couple. And you're able to. You did.
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay.
And you were able to attend them?
Yes. She played a cloud, little animal, something like that, Midsummer Night's Dream. She didn't have any words that time.
Oh yeah, that's cute. You can find plays around here locally too. There's so much. So this is like, by now Anne
By
is
the way,
sitting
you're
there.
so slim.
Oh, I'm sorry. By the way, you're so slim and you have such a nice figure. Why do you keep so slim? So this is the parentheses we're not reading. Anne is sitting there with oxygen tubing. She's been losing weight and falling from losing her balance.
Well now. You want to keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
Well, I'm not feeling that great now.
She's the patient.
I don't feel like I look so good.
Oh, but you look fine to me.
Well, I had a facelift, but now because of all the prednisone, my face is all fat. I don't like the way I look. This is amazing.
When did you have your facelift?
Oh, about a year ago.
Oh.
Yes, the doctors didn't want to do it because of my condition, but I found someone who would, and I'm not dying.
Oh, no, of course not. You're not dying. Don't worry about that. What did you have done?
Well, they tucked in here, and my neck, and I didn't like my double chin, and they tucked my skin, and they pinned it behind my ears. And that's you, Adam.
Ow, that must have really hurt.
That was the most painful part, behind my ears. You've got the whole page.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, do you remember the comedian Phyllis Diller? Well, she's had so many facelifts. You know, one time she said, I've had so many facelifts, see this cleft in my chin? Well, that's really my belly button. Next time I have a facelift, it's going to be a hairy goatee.
So this is in parentheses here. I'm just about ready to slide under the table. I can't believe what the volunteer is saying. Isn't this off color, especially on a first visit? I'm scrambling in my head watching this woman talk endlessly, no active listening. So what do you do? Does a volunteer have the same guidelines as chaplains in visiting a patient? Nervous laugh. Anne looks a little...
huh? I give Maureen, is this your
No,
voice?
I give Maureen, it's still me, right? Yeah. I give Maureen a scrunched up look of what did you... Why did you say that?
But she doesn't seem to get my hint.
Okay. In my visits with Anne, we generally include some reading either from the Bible or poetry, whatever might be of interest at that time. Last week we read the poetry of Jim Morrison from The Doors. Anne likes his work.
Oh yeah, whatever you like.
Okay, let me see if Okay, that's great. Thank you. So that was an actual visit.
Really?
Yeah. It was.
That is motivating to practice.
That was an actual visit.
That's so unbelievable.
Yeah.
You were the patient and you were the volunteer and you were the chaplain?
No, she was the chaplain. She was the volunteer. Yeah, and you were the patient. So I could not believe what was going on, and I told the volunteer coordinator, and I had to call you back to talk to you, because she felt she was ready to get her certification to be a volunteer visitor. And I felt she needed more practice. So anyway, again, it took a lot for me to call her, because my MO is avoid at all costs. And I had to confront her. And so she knew I was going to call, and I called, and it was just this long list of, I've done so many things, I've volunteered here, I've done this, I've done that, I've been helpful all these years. And I had to just really use some active listening to be able to talk with her. You know, I mentioned the off-color joke, that the patient had said, I am not interested in plays, and she went on to talk about how good she looks and getting into her facelift when she's on hospice with oxygen. So, you know, it was really like the visit from hell. So to see, you know, it's like we're just people, we're trying our best. She had good intentions, and she's turned around. You know, my being able to face my confrontation issues and address those things with her really helped her a lot. And she's been seeing a lot of clients, and it's wonderful. She's still with the team. She's working really well. So to see, you know, it's like we're salvageable. Okay, so we should stop here.